On today's Apple Daily, new iMacs referenced in Big Sur 11.3 beta, that smaller iPhone notch might actually be real, plus more Apple TV update evidence. I'm Mike David and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you, and let's get right into the news. New iMacs referenced in Big Sur 11.3 beta. Now I hate to be smug about it, but haven't I been saying for a while that new iMacs were just around the corner? In the latest macOS Big Sur 11.3 beta that landed yesterday, two new iMac models are listed, the iMac 21,1 and iMac 21,2, with the codenames J456 and J457, which Bloomberg mentioned earlier this year. So let's swing back around to my list of devices registered in Europe that we looked at back in October last year, and we have two gaps left on our desktop side, the A2438 and A2439. Our existing iMac models are A2115 and A2116, with a one-digit difference, so I think we can confidently assume that those leftover numbers are indeed the iMacs as expected. What is more interesting is that everyone has been saying only the smaller version will come early in the year, but this very much seems to indicate that we have two models on the way pretty soon. And I would point out that the two different model numbers means two different form factors. This is not different processors, this is not different configurations. We have two existing iMac numbers, plus there is actually one other iMac number which refers to a 21.5 inch model, which is presumably the one with a 1080p display instead of the 4K display. That makes all the sense in the world. Of course, the 27 inch only comes with a 5K display, so it makes sense we've only got one number for that. Makes sense? Cool. Back to the story. My assumption is that both will feature the M1X processor. The name is obviously assumed still, but it's a fairly safe bet based on what Apple has done elsewhere, and beyond the display size difference, the machines will be largely identical. I think they'll be absolute screamers in terms of performance, and we have talked already about what we think the performance will be like, and you can check out the whole video where we predicted it up here. I think they'll be entirely not at all upgradable once you've bought them, and just like with the M1, you'll be choosing your unified memory level and your SSD amount. That will pretty much be as much as you can customize. Now I do wonder if Apple's going to actually carry on making a Magic Mouse or refresh it into a new version, or if they'll just go to a trackpad as their first party option, as it unlocks much more of macOS's features compared to the mouse, although I know that would be a controversial move. Here comes your obligatory rundown of what we're expecting in the new iMacs. 24-ish and 30 to 32-ish inch displays, possibly 5K and 6K resolutions, better FaceTime cameras, hopefully up to 4K, iPad Pro style design language with flat sides and back, iPad Air colour options, rounded display corners, possibly a rotating display like the Pro Display XDR, and that stupidly fast M1X SoC at the heart, silent power. Now, why is this in the beta? My guess is that some influencers will be receiving a large box fairly soon filled with iMacs and NDAs, so that when they're announced on a Tuesday in April, they'll go up for orders the following Friday, along with a whole bunch of excited videos from Marques Brownlee, iJustine, Brian Tong, and all their friends. Oh, to be a part of that elite. Smash the subscribe button so that maybe we can be in 2028. Today, by the way, is actually the 20th anniversary of macOS 10 being launched by an Apple led by Steve Jobs, who'd introduced it a year earlier at Macworld in January of 2000. It introduced much of what we still have today with the Aqua interface, the dock, the Finder, and much, much more. Compared to how Windows looked in 2000, you will see how far ahead Apple was at the time with the PowerPC architecture. And actually, we've gone back to a lot of things like the 2D dock in recent years, away from the 3D style that was introduced with Leopard. It's good to know that Apple is back on its own path now with its own silicon, rather than simply having to use the same components that Intel has been slowly farting out for years. That smaller iPhone notch might actually be real. Leaks via Greek repair shop iRepair via Mac rumours via the internet have shown glass panels potentially for the next iPhone model with a smaller notch. This happens to be exactly in line with an image previously leaked by eyebrow-free leaker John Prosser, and is achieved by moving the speaker grill up to the top edge of the panel adjacent to the bezel. This leads to a narrower notch, allowing a little more breathing space either side, so we could see the much anticipated return of battery percentages. Honestly, I cannot tell you how much I miss having the actual number there. But my question for you is this: what will Apple do with all that extra space on the other side of the notch? Let me know your thoughts for what should be done with this vast abyss in the comments. Apple TV drops Siri as fast as my new intro. Apple's latest build of TV OS 14.5 beta has replaced the Siri remote name with simply Apple TV Remote, which of course is the most polite thing anyone has ever called that slippery tiny glass and aluminium thing that generally sits between the couch cushions, meaning that as soon as you sit down, it turns off whatever you're watching. By the way, anyone who actually has an Apple TV, do you actually use the remote or do you just use your iPhone to control it? Give us volume controls on the iPhone remote and I would be happy to sack off the physical remote entirely. Now, you may be wondering why this is news, and I get that, but I'd say that it's definitely an indication that Apple might be replacing the Apple TV sooner rather than later, so we'll see what happens there. But the aforementioned John Prosser has said that a new version is done and ready to ship, yet nobody has yet been able to decide if they'll include an A14 or an A12Z SoC. Since the power is about the same, my money would be on A14 simply because Apple's newer cores would be much easier for them to support in the long term, and Apple TV is basically a services delivery box, which means that Apple might take a lower margin on the hardware here in order to grow and sustain the install base of Apple One for music, TV, arcade and more. I'd also assume that the Apple TV would be more tightly integrated with home automation, and as I previously mentioned, it could have a whole new form factor, including a camera module for FaceTime and possibly LiDAR for motion tracking in games. So maybe the whole Apple TV system could be in a new form factor that actually sits above your TV or underneath it. Stay tuned. The reason that we were talking about this is because Apple did buy PrimeSense, who were the guys behind the original Kinect that Microsoft used way back in the day. They bought that in 2013. That became the basis of Face ID and also things like Animojis, which makes sense because they're tracking motion and then turning it into something on the screen. I do think that we are going to get more of a home hub based on Apple TV, which is going to turn your TV in the lounge into a FaceTime camera as well. I think that would be awesome to be able to FaceTime your family from the TV. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. This is probably going to end up being a little bit of a shorter video than normal, which is weird because I'm not tech hyped. If you've got any questions for us as well, don't forget #iCaveAnswers down in the comments and I'll answer them in a future show. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one.